Hi, welcome to Infinite Leaders Live. My name's Lewis Keynes, and our why is simple: to be better educators and to be better humans. We want to support and encourage infinite learning for everybody, regardless of their role or rank, to be willing to listen and learn and get better. I'm joined as usual by my pal, Alan Dunstan.
Thank you, Lewis, and really looking forward to diving deeper into understanding how our leaders with infinite mindsets translate this across to their teams. We want to focus on the things you don't get taught at university or on any inset courses, real life lessons from real life people with real life experience.
And we're learning as usual and recording live as well, so there'll be a few mistakes, I'm sure. As ever, we want your feedback. We practice what we preach. Where we're doing well, please tell us where you think we can improve. We'd love to know that so we can invest that time and make what we're doing better to access it for more people. You can find us on Instagram, you can find us on YouTube, and you can also find us on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You'll find Alan and I on Twitter as well. And please visit theinfinitelearners.com for more information from us and about us. So listen, learn, and share with your colleagues and friends. Alan, let's dive in.
Yeah, get your pens and papers ready, guys. There's going to be some absolute gems of wisdom today. And a little pun there. We've got Gemma Chambers, who's an experienced
Hey, you've been waiting for that one. You've been waiting for that one.
Very good.
She's previously worked at Hong Kong Academy, and she's currently teaching at the very innovative Green School in New Zealand. She's passionate about education in all forms, living a sustainable and active life, and sharing that with the people she works with. So welcome, Gemma. And
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey getting to that Green School?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting journey, and I'm very grateful that it happened at the time that it did. I have had a wonderful upbringing in Hong Kong. I was very lucky to move there in the late 80s and lived a kind of very full and joyful expat life, and was teaching in Hong Kong. And really, my experience of life in Hong Kong, from having been in that really consumeristic expat lifestyle, flying around the world many times a year, experiencing wonderful things, but at a quite high cost to the environment, and also just in terms of materialism, I'd sort of changed how I felt and how I wanted to participate in the world and how I wanted to be a consumer. So we'd been on quite a journey as a family at home, trying to change the ways that we impacted the environment through our purchases, through the work that my husband does, through a circular economy type business. And I started researching how I could bring that into my own teaching. So we were doing quite a lot of work at Hong Kong Academy in terms of greening and sustainability, but I kind of wanted to look at sustainability as more than just environmental. I believe that sustainability speaks to nature, economy, society, and well-being. And so I looked at the Bali Green School, which was obviously it's a very well-established green school, and had an opportunity to meet with the board there and almost took a job there. And then just as they offered me the job, I got a phone call saying, I'm not sure if you've heard, but we're going to open one in New Zealand and the founders would love to speak to you. So I got to talk to the founders down here, who had just about purchased 121 acres of land and had done structural designs with amazing architects and engineers, but there was no school here yet. And we decided to take the leap, and we brought our two boys, who are 9 and 11, down here in January, and we hit the ground at sort of the perfect timing, really, in terms of New Zealand feeling like a pretty amazing place to have spent this part of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, obviously COVID's come in and it's affected the world in numerous ways. How have you dealt with that in New Zealand and in particular at the Green School?
So we'd only lived here 7 weeks when they shut us down. As you know, we'd lived here 9 weeks and we'd been teaching about 7 weeks. And so we had literally just started establishing norms. We are working in these phenomenal classrooms, but they're very unusual. They're non-traditional. We spend 60 to 70% of our time outdoors, especially with the younger age groups. We're doing journeying on and off campus constantly. And so when campus closed and we knew that we wanted to provide really good remote learning, the challenge for us really was, well, how do you green school that? How do you make online learning or remote learning even vaguely outdoorsy or green school without putting tremendous amounts of pressure on parents who are already under a lot of pressure to have their children at home. So that was a really big challenge. And I think there are only 10 of us, only 10 staff currently. And I think everybody just pulled together and pulled on their personal strengths. And I did a lot of very quick tech upskilling to kind of get us to a place where we could provide what we felt was a balance of good, suggestive, experiential learning via videos, via Zoom, through pre-recorded, and also both asynchronous and non-synchronous as well. And then when we went back to school, again, just kind of that very inward at the moment, that sort of pivot, we had to pivot again because we only had 50% of our students came back. So we were doing remote learning and at school learning. So finally, when everybody came back, it was just like a massive celebration that we were sort of able to go, okay, where were we? What did we even start? Let's start again. And so it's been great. It's been a real challenge to have a startup of any kind. This year is very rocky and stressful, and for the founders, for our budget, the sort of fee structure and the income structure for the school, because it is a private school, is that it would have 50% international students. So at the moment, of course, we can't take any of those students, and we have 40 students currently registered who were supposed to arrive between now and December, and we just don't know if they can come. So a lot of stress for our financial side, which meant lots of changes. And I think that the outcome that has been best for me and for my colleagues and the students is the slowdown. I think we've really looked at slowing down. It's very easy to race in the startup of a school and to think more, better, faster, harder, let's do it, it's great, more ideas. And actually what we're learning through having our kids outside is that the slower, the more time we give them in the space, the more we experience their understanding of what we're teaching them. And it's been really fascinating to have allowed COVID to teach me that, and I think teach us as creators of this new curriculum that being slow is okay.
Gemma, tell us a little bit more of what that curriculum looks like. What would a typical day be for a teacher in the Green School? I think for most of us, it's very far removed from what we're used to, and it'd be really interesting to dive into that a bit more.
Sure. So the way that we've set up the curriculum is that our school value is to thrive with purpose. So that is the base of everything that we're doing. And we're looking at if we are going to be at our happiness, we must be purposeful. So to thrive with purpose. And within that, we look at all of our curriculum planning is from the lenses of sustainability, well-being, and systems thinking. So as we plan for those things, we're looking at what we call our real compass, so relationships, experiences, actions, and then what we call local to global, how we kind of take that in-house learning and put it out to the world. And so on a day-to-day, we're covering what we call our Koru curriculum, which I'll explain in a minute, Voyages, which is kind of our concept-driven, similar to the IB in terms of units of study or a thematic study out of the UK. We have our proficiencies, which covers numeracy, literacy, and all the other sort of subject-based learning. And then we have Hikoi, which means to wander. It's kind of like walkabout. In Bali, they call it jalan, which also means like walking. And that's where we're encouraging, through very structured experiences for our younger students, all the way up to highly self-directed and self-driven experiences for the older children. So a day at school will include kind of, for us, similar to most schools, we have got numeracy and literacy every day in the classroom. We spend time looking at the Voyages through transdisciplinary kind of models there. And then we also, and my favorite part is really this Koru curriculum. And the Koru curriculum looks at well-being. And for me, the well-being of our students kind of underpins everything that we're doing. And it's been absolutely amazing to have an opportunity to not just say as an educator, yeah, well-being is important, but to have an opportunity to intentionally build that into our timetable daily. And so between 30 and 60 minutes of every day is spent looking at what we call our koru curriculum. And the koru is the name for New Zealand fern. So you have that lovely All Blacks fern, the silver fern, and it kind of unfurls. And it's the idea that it is both protective and safe, but also unfurling and always growing new life. And looking at the ways that we can use a strong curriculum around well-being to have children be joyful. And when children are joyful and engaged, we know they learn better. So yeah, that's roughly it.
So what makes what you've said there, what makes the Green School so different to a regular school? Certainly maybe the previous school that you worked at in Hong Kong.
I think whilst the values of schools I've worked in the past are similar, we want well-rounded, kind, skilled people to come out of education. I think the biggest piece that we're taking away is the idea of kind of intentional, structured, summative assessment or examinations. So really, we are looking at, although we will have the opportunity for students who wish to participate in maybe an exam-based curriculum such as SATs or the NCA, we are really looking at creating a very strong diploma which supports the skills that we want young people, or we feel that young people should be going out into the world with, without necessarily having to write that down in an exam or show that through coursework. So we're looking at creating opportunities for the students to leave with a number of skills that might be a little bit different. Like, for example, every child leaving with their own functional business at the end of their school time. But the most important thing is that they will be leaving with a set of skills, including public speaking, business planning, structuring events, all these opportunities that they will have leaving the school, which are kind of different to, it's great, you've done lots of inquiry through your primary school, it's all really great stuff. Now you'll just sit down and cram as much knowledge in as you possibly can so that you can output that in 2 years. And I think looking at the universities, I think we spoke about this before, you know, Harvard University is now saying that they are accepting students without GPA scores or SAT scores. There are universities all around the world that are starting to recognize that the skill sets that people have are much, much more than what we can write down on a piece of paper or type into a computer at the end of 13 years of schooling.
I love that idea of being creative and giving children the chance to build on values and transferable skills. But I can imagine that there might be school leaders around the world that would be having a mini panic attack at the fact that there are no outcomes, and how do these children then move on into good jobs that require qualifications? How do they move into those? And what's the process there? Because I imagine that's going to take quite a long time for that kind of approach and that kind of opinion from those big institutions to change.
Yeah, so I think certain things that we're doing, certainly in the primary school, is being very intentional around skills. So we have our Green School skills. We also have our I Respect values, and the children will build up their skill base through the time period that they're at school. And so by having a really intentional skill-based curriculum where we value proficiencies very highly, I think one of the images that comes from schools like Green School and similar schools around the world is that it's fluffy and that it's lovely, and they read and write. Can they, are they going to be able to, if you do want to be a vet, is that a possibility for you? And I think what it is mostly about is looking at the individual and through a joyful learning experience in the primary school, then building on opportunities to show your learning in your own way. So whether that's through portfolios, whether that's through practice interviews, whether that's through TED Talks or what we call our Greenstone experiences, which are sort of culminating projects that you take with you, you will have had a lot of practice. I think a lot of us go to university or leave university and we've never even practiced an interview. We've never sat in a boardroom. We've never met with people who work in any kind of business environments. And so I think giving our children opportunities to work alongside real functioning businesses and also encouraging them to follow passions is really, really important. So on top of that, we will also be looking at supporting it with what's called the NCEA here in New Zealand. So there is a really strong, I think it's similar to the A levels, but there is really strong strands of that we will allow the children have the opportunity to get credits there as well. So there is opportunities that, as we're in this kind of weird window where universities are just starting to change, the world is just starting to see it a bit differently. We do have to be mindful that we make sure we give the students structure and stability if that's what they need.
So there is the option for children to go in and have some examination-based stuff if that's the kind of route they want to go down. It's more traditional, a little bit more formal and academic. How does the well-being stuff fit into this? 60 minutes a day, for me personally, sounds like a dream to focus on well-being within schools. I'm a huge advocate for it, but why is that important, and what do you do in that time?
So I best speak to the primary school. So we have what we call our koru ritual, and what I've done is looked at the Te Reo Māori curriculum here. It talks about these 4 walls of well-being. So we have Te Whare Tapa Whā, which, excuse my Te Reo because I'm just learning, but we look at four walls of well-being, and we're looking at our physical well-being, social well-being, which is family, social life, our community, our culture, mental and emotional well-being, and also our, what have I not said, physical, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And I think, as adults now, we recognize more and more that we may go into the world with academic strengths, we may go into the world with business sense, but the amount of people who are living with mental health issues, and both either undiagnosed or diagnosed mental health issues, because we haven't learnt how to look after ourselves. And we're not taught enough how to take care of ourselves. So what we try to do is intentionally look at either strategies, through games, through stories, through experiences, that we're learning about ourselves, and we're learning to name which wall we're strengthening. So if I'm talking about, say, a social thing, we might be talking about friendships in year 1, and what makes a good friend? How do I do this? And it's just that intentional learning. We also might be talking about health, healthy eating, about physical activity, and the importance of that for us. And I think building that daily intentionally is very, very important. The other way that we do it is looking outwardly to our communities and thinking about what are the strengths of the well-being of our community and how can we contribute to that. So the older students are very much looking outwardly into ways through the kind of relationship, that idea of the real experiences, making relationships, having experiences, taking action, and then sharing that action to the larger world is how we will learn to be better people and happier people and healthier people at the end of school. And we put so much value on teaching things like it's really, really important to know fractions. And why do we know fractions? So we can eat birthday cake and share it with people. We put value on all things geological and historical, but we don't often put value on our own well-being. And I think that's what the school is saying, is that we do value that equal to your academic learning.
Yeah, love that, Gemma. Absolutely superb. I'm just want to think about your own well-being there. How good is it that you are working in a school that reflects your own core values?
It's a journey. It's a startup. I'm so tired. I need my holiday next Friday. I think you've given a massive gift to co-construct and work with other people who've been kind of cherry picked from around the world, and these amazing educators that we're working with. But full disclosure, we're working really hard, and we keep having to say, here we are teaching well-being, and also still being really mindful of holding on to that for ourselves. And as I said before, that kind of slowing down and just, what? Yeah, my reading workshop program is not as good as I would have loved it to be yet, but I was only here for 7 weeks. We locked down for 7 weeks, and here we are again. So I think acknowledging that we need to model it and continue to model it is really important. And the other part is the green stuff. It's so cool to be in a school where we have these amazing builders on site, and you sort of say, I'm thinking we could do some sort of upcycling project with this, and they're just so creative, and it's great to work in a place where yeah, the environment does matter, and it's been purpose built to allow us to experience nature in a very pure way. Yeah, it's brilliant. I feel very, very privileged to be here.
Are there personal anxieties there, Gemma, of obviously this school, you sound very passionate about it, you clearly enjoy what you're doing there, and it's a real opportunity for you to put a lot of the things that you stand for in practice by the sounds of it. But as a teacher that's been in more traditional schools, do you have personal anxieties about what actually this looks like for a child that's taking the journey through, and how as a teacher you gauge whether they're making progress, and how you track them, and how you consider whether you're on the right lines?
Yeah, massively. I think that's a huge thing. My own boys are at the school, so we've taken a big risk in saying, right, we're going to go through with this, and we're always sort of listening and watching and thinking, okay, how is this going to grow? And by the time, so Freddie's 11, so he'll be going into the secondary school next year. It's a big risk that we're taking. I honestly believe that it will be kind of okay for them, and we will navigate our way through this. And whether we supplement, especially for sports, for my husband, it's a new school, we don't have the teams, so we're looking at that sort of rigor and grit is really important to us as parents, to find ways for our children to have more traditional sporting experiences. It's great that they're learning to go caving and rock climbing and hiking, but we're not doing the traditional PE at the moment. The other part that I'm very conscious of is I am assessing the children formatively all the time. So I'm keeping really, really good data at the moment, probably better than I've ever done before, because I am really I need to be able to tell parents, this is where they were, and this is where they are, and this is the growth that we've seen. And yeah, that growth is personal, that growth is not so much compared to others' growth, it's personal. What's that lovely word? Continuums. But I am very mindful of making sure, particularly through our proficiencies, our skills, that we hold on to those, that database for our kids, so we can make sure that they're progressing and learning. And another thing is to make sure a lot of our kids are extended. So it's great to have lots of fun, but what are the ways? Are we really challenging them? Are we really pushing some of these kids to think as deeply as they can in all of our subjects? So, for example, the current unit that we're about to start, our new voyage, is called A Net with a Handful of Holes. And so the whole school will do this voyage, and it's about what we think it's about. We're co-constructing it, so we're not entirely sure, but we think it's going to be about mostly economy, and economies of, for our younger children, that will look like composting cycles, food cycles. It will look like making upcycling and making things and visiting trash recycling places. For our older students, it will really be investigating economy in a much more detailed way. And the economies, we're looking at ideas through period poverty, really looking at women's studies, and we're looking at a lot of social experiences to look at linear economies versus circular economies. Both through business models, but also through kind of social enterprise models as well. So it's rich, but we need to be sure that it's rigorous as well. Like, how do we challenge our kids to really be always engaged and working hard? So yeah, it is full of anxieties, but so are any schools. I think you're always thinking, is this it? Is this good enough? It's always, we have, as teachers, we have a phrase here. It came from Bali, where they say flex, bend like bamboo, and here flex like flax. I think educators are the people that have the most professional development, other than maybe doctors, in the world, in any industry. And we're constantly learning, we're constantly changing. And I think being flexible and agile is what I want to model in everything that I'm doing, so that the students see, like, well, if I'm learning, if I'm stretching myself, then I expect the same from you.
It must be really, really difficult, because traditionally as a teacher, that flexibility is a little bit less, because there's structured scaffolds and frameworks that you need to stick to.
Yeah, and what we're doing is we're trying to I guess cherry pick might be the word. Really look at what is best practice globally, and take the best. I mean, stuff that I was doing in Hong Kong Academy, I learned some amazing things. There were some great things, and we're definitely not throwing out the bathwater, or the baby with the bathwater, whatever we're saying. You know, we're trying to take what we know and what we know is really good about education and put it in a different setting and take anxiety out of education. We don't want children to be stressed. Nobody wants to be stressed. And we know that when we are, as humans, are not anxious or in a stress, fight or flight mode, that we learn more. And so what our environment provides is that opportunity for children to relax, to play with nature, to play with new ideas. And you know that our founders are amazing people, and they will say to us all the time, really go for it, really bold, really original, fail, 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 because that's the only way we are going to sit on that very seesaw and that real balancing point of like, well, it's risky, we haven't done it before, let's see if they learn it. And the cool thing is you can always say, hey, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, they've still got another, for me, because I teach the littlest ones, they've still got another like 10 years, you know, we'll fix it. But I think being willing to fail, and again, modeling that to our learners is what's really, and our parent community too, being transparent and allowing the parents to participate in the co-construction of our
Sounds
learning.
like a fantastic environment to learn in, yeah.
Yeah, lots of challenges.
I'm just going to ask about the parents there, Gemma, because when you talk about taking anxiety out of education, and having worked in Asia, as we all have done, it's often the parents that create that anxiety through the high expectations of exam results and going on and being in certain professions that they want their children to be. How do you then educate the parents? You talked a little bit there about getting them involved, but how do you drive that home to a parent that wants to come in and they're exam driven?
For parents that are exam driven, I think a lot of the children that are coming to green schools and to schools that are not mainstream, they're looking for something. They know that there's not a good fit for their child in some way. So we have a lot of children sort of in that kind of twice exceptional range where mainstream schools are just not working for them. And actually, we're not really seeing parents who are exam driven. We're seeing parents who are very passionate about their children's education, very driven to make sure they give the absolute best to their kids. But they're saying that what they're seeing in the mainstream is too cookie cutter. Their child doesn't fit, and they know their kids have abilities. They can see that, but they need to be given more options, more flexibility, and more student-led, student-centered opportunities to learn. So I think our parents are coming to us already very open to that. I think one of the biggest challenges then, of course, we go from this, oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Well, we're also happy, it's fantastic, everybody's happy. They are learning, aren't they? And they are going to be okay. And they are, they're good readers, aren't they? And they are going to read and they are going to do it. And so our job is to be rigorous in, as I said before, make sure we can say yes. And the ways that we do that is by making sure that we are goal setting. We use the New Zealand curriculum standards to underpin our learning. We make sure that we're thoroughly planned. Although it feels a lot of the time like we're winging it and it's really relaxed, there's a lot of really big intentional planning, from kind of big concept mapping right down to daily planning. Everyone knows what they're doing. Well, I say that most days. Most days we know what we're doing.
And like all of us.
Yeah, right. And that, you know, I think we're all every day making mistakes and going, yeah, well, we plan to do this massive downpour of rain. So what do we do now? We just, you know, go dance in the rain for a bit until it stops. So I think those parents, we've learned already pretty quickly how communicative we need to be. And as educators, we are guides and navigators, but parents have often just as much to offer. And so we're very open. We have a lot of opportunities for parents to come and co-educate with us. And I hope that will grow more and more. And I think it's wonderful for parents to see day-to-day school and be a part of it, because I think so much of the time it's drop them off in the bus bay and who knows what happens. So lots of communication has been really important. And one thing that we are doing that's really cool, you guys will like, we're doing every month we're doing a survey. It's called our flourishing scale. And I can't remember the name of the man that started it, but about 30 years ago, there was a scientist who looked at happiness and looked at well-being, human well-being, and started creating questions that can measure that. So we're using about 6 or 7 questions, and we do it every month with the 5-year-olds right up to the whole community, parents and teachers, and we're trying to collect data and measure how well and happy and satisfied we feel. Are we flourishing? Are we feeling challenged? Are we feeling valued? And that's really interesting I think that would be really cool to see over the next few years, how that kind of pans out, and what we then do with that data.
That's super powerful. I mean, we've tried similar, haven't we, Lewis, at BSM with the scaling of happiness?
Yeah, we have, and one of the things that I've written down there was that you do that every 30 days. We tried a model of once a term that obviously has got disrupted towards the end of this year, but along the same lines from Seligman's work and also that not just his on the PERMA survey, but the authentic happiness stuff as well, and trying to create almost our own that encapsulates what BSM was about and the well-being framework that we have. It's really interesting to hear some of the parallels of that. What's been the biggest challenge for you as a leader, Gemma, going into a new role in a school that is so very different?
I think certainly I found it really challenging being an outsider. This is a first for me. You know, Hong Kong is my home. I was very, very confident there, and very lucky to work in big international schools. I worked at the ESF, English Schools Foundation, for a long time as well. And I just was really in my comfort zone, and I'm way out of it here. And I don't know the New Zealand curriculum. I don't know it very well yet. We're learning. And I think just trying to take what I know internationally is best practice and come in and share that in a way that is positive and not patronizing, and also valuing some really great stuff that's going on here. Because one of the things that we will struggle with a little bit is we don't want to be seen as the castle on the hill. Here we are in Taranaki, which is real hard, rough, rugged farm country, and people have a perception of a big fancy eco private school. So breaking through those barriers and saying, look, absolutely, we're not saying what you have is not good enough. We're saying it's just a different way, and pulling from the strengths of the curriculums they have here. Like their early childhood curriculum here is really strong, and it's world renowned for being fantastic. So I'm trying to take as much of that and as many experiences I can to connect with local schools to bring that into our school, and not saying that we're throwing it all out and we're doing something new. We all come to the school with really, really great experiences and knowledge. But that's been challenging for me to figure out. I'm one of those people, I do care what people think, and I want to be liked, and not supposed to do that as a leader, but you do. And I think trying to come in and not be pushing an international agenda. However, we are an international school, and we need to be seen to be striving as one of the best international schools in the world. That's difficult.
Yeah, Gemma, what strategies do you have for dealing with that feeling of being out of your comfort zone?
That's a great question. I think Andrew and I have always been kind of people that we push each other and we support each other, and we try to always say, like, let's just do it. We're just going to do it. We're just going to turn up. So turning up for touch rugby, we didn't know anybody, and actually ended up playing for the wrong team for the first 15 minutes before anybody went, are you? So, we kind of try to, again, like modeling for our kids, we want to show them that we're here, we've taken a big risk, we'll put ourselves out there. I also, reaching out, I've got a really good network. I have some fantastic mentors from Hong Kong, and reaching out to those people and looking, like, asking for help, always asking for help. Set yourself up, don't isolate yourself. And I think my main strategy is, and it's something that, again, through the well-being, is saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this, so I'm going to need some time, or please help me. And I think being brave and asking for help when people say, oh, you were picked out of however many hundreds of CVs, you start to panic. You're like, oh my God, is that imposter syndrome, right? How do you get over imposter syndrome? And the way you do that for me is just saying, yeah, please help me. And that seems to be working quite well at the moment.
It seems to be a common theme across a lot of people that we've interviewed, this imposter syndrome, and I certainly suffered from it. I just wrote about it on our latest blog. It can paralyze you, and you've just talked there about how you turn up and crack on, that you have mentors, that you ask for help. What advice could you give to your younger self in your Hong Kong days?
Just do it. I think I've felt all this time that I'm not quite good enough. Like, well, I'm not the specialist. I'm not the expert. Like, I'm just a teacher, and I'm just doing it every day. And I wish I'd just said, I am going to do a workshop, and if people don't like it, that's fine, because I will have just practiced doing a workshop. I've always done well from being really honest, and like every interview I've gone into, I've gone, well, maybe I don't know that bit, but I'm a quick learner, and I will put myself out there, and I'll ask for help if I need it. I just wish I'd applied that to the challenges. So now, for example, I'm not being given a choice. They're like, oh, you're going to be running a workshop on this. Oh, okay, right. And I'm just doing it. I wish I'd just done it more. Just do it. Like you guys are doing it. You're just getting out and starting something. You could have sat around in the pub and had these conversations for years, but actually saying, no, we're going to be intentional and put this out there because we're passionate about it. I would have liked for myself to have pushed a bit more, to take, lean in more and take more risks.
We did have those conversations for years before we did anything about it. The conversation, the point you said there, I think that's a really, really interesting phrase, that I'm just a teacher, and you can look at that as that, I'm just a teacher. You can also look at it in such a powerful way, which it seems like you are doing now. And that advice of giving that advice, that suggestion of giving that advice to your younger self seems a really sensible one, that you're not just a teacher, you are a teacher, and the possibilities that you've got are enormous. And would it be fair to say that you're starting to see that potential now, and you see the possibilities that you've got as a teacher that maybe you didn't see before?
Definitely. I think I've been really lucky. I did a lot of sort of a style of life coaching. I did some cognitive coaching training, and I've also spent some time, with people who ask those kind of really good mediative questions. And I'm beginning now to have the capacity to see that, like, I've always thought, like, well, what will I do when I finish teaching? I don't know. They're like, well, would you consult? Well, I don't know. What would I have to offer? And certainly now I can start to see these little flags going up, going, oh yeah, I could do this, or I can offer this. And I think building that competence and confidence is beginning to happen for me. I feel very empowered by this move, and I think that surrounding myself with other risk takers has been amazing, because we're all risk taking right now. We're all really right on the precipice. You talk about zones of proximal development. Half my day I'm right out there going. I think it's really good, and I feel much more strength in certain of that. And I love that you can see how much impact you can have on families. And I think that's something that young teachers need to know. Don't worry about your lessons so much. Don't worry about did it go to plan? Did you connect? And do you know the children? And if you know the children and you know the families, then you've done a really, really good thing.
The connection. Sorry, go on. The connection part of has been something that has been picked up on in a few of our episodes, Alan, isn't it? In terms of, that's the key thing, and that's the core thing at the heart of everybody as a teacher, and what they're doing and why they're trying to do it. And you just echoed that there. Tell us a bit more about the comfort zone thing. Tell me how that feels when you're way out of your comfort zone. Tell me the bits that you've liked about it, the bits that you haven't, and the things that you've enjoyed, and maybe those that you've really found difficult.
For example, I've been teaching Readers and Writers Workshop, which is an American model by a couple of amazing people out of this, and I think I feel really confident teaching that. And I was really very structured. I had a really great program in Hong Kong that I kind of co-written with people. And it was going with what has happened here is that I've been asked to share that model and teach that model. And it's been really hard because I'm looking at really, really experienced educators who've been teaching literacy for a really long time. And they're saying, they're vulnerable. They're saying, okay, I've got to learn this new thing, you know, and I've had to stretch myself to be confident enough to teach them, to teach adults, and to think about the ways that I can connect and model and workshop for people in a way that's not patronizing, that's not saying, this way is better, this model, you should do this model. And that's been really challenging for me, and kind of structuring that through support of my colleagues, running things through people, has really, really helped me. And I think the other part too that helps is I'm also really vulnerable in other areas which are new to me here. You know, the Te Reo Māori, the cultural stuff we're learning about the Māori and the Indigenous culture. It's really complicated. And so I think by showing vulnerability, you can really gain people's trust and let them know that, okay, so now when I'm out of my comfort zone, and you trust me, I trust you, we're good. We can play, we can take risks. If people don't have a really strong, trusting working environment, then that's never going to happen. We're going to just carry on. And so we've spent a lot of time as a team looking at our culture as colleagues. And we've had some like ridiculous conversations. I can't even tell you, I've had conversations with a team of teachers that I would never have even imagined possible in my previous life. And yet I felt I was in a really structured and happy working environment. So yeah, I think being vulnerable and looking at ways to nudge yourself forward rather than taking big leaps has helped, is what I'm trying anyway.
Yeah, and it sounds like a wonderful environment for you to push yourself in when you're going through those difficult times with other people, but you've got the opportunity to feel trusted and be trusted and display that vulnerability as you've talked about. You know, I think that's really cool. It sounds like a wonderful situation and a great team to work in. We're going to start to wind it down a little bit now, Gemma, with our prior questions. I'll let Alan choose one to start with. Go on, Al.
Yeah, what book are you reading at the moment, Gemma?
I'm reading Born a Crime, Trevor Noah. I've wanted to read it for a long time. I haven't, I'm only on chapter 3, but I love him. And I think with all the current racial stuff that's happening, you know, with what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening globally, I just feel it's so pertinent, and it just popped up.
It's an absolutely outstanding book. No book for me really captures what a sense of belonging is and how important it is more than that. And once you've read it, I'd suggest you listen to the audiobook as well. He does all the accents, and it's just
third
incredible.
person today to tell me to listen to it on audio.
Yeah, it's outstanding. It's a really, really good read and listen.
Good. Yeah, I heard he's very funny.
He is a very funny guy.
Next one, Gemma, then. 3 non-negotiables you have as a leader.
Be honest. Like, I can't deal with having to negotiate around people. Be honest with me. Yeah. I did a lot of work around Jenny Abraham's having hard conversations. I hate them, and I've worked really, really hard to cry through conversations and say, oh, we're going to keep going. So I think being honest and being honest, seeking feedback is really, really important. Honestly, go forward, seek feedback, and be willing to listen and take that feedback. So non-negotiable for me is really be honest with me and tell me what you need from me so that I can perform better. I think work hard, play hard. I'm a real work to live person. I don't believe in giving over yourself fully. I see educators all the time. They get to a point where there's almost nothing else in their lives, and that's certainly not us. I really want to be the best educator that I can, and then really, really enjoy my holidays.
Yeah.
And then third one. Work as a team, collaboration. Like I think presume positive intent, you know, putting ideas on the table, all these, I've worked a lot with those 7 norms of collaboration, and I think they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And if you genuinely want co-construction and you really want true collaboration, the first and foremost thing is presume positive intent. Presume every day that everyone has turned up to be a good teacher and to be a good kid and to be a good parent. None of us go into parenting going, yeah, I'll be a bit crap at this, it's fine. We all want the best for our kids. And we all make mistakes. And I think as teachers, as parents, and as students, you've got to presume that they got up in the morning trying to do the best they can. So presume positive intent.
Nice. Last one, Gemma. 3 leaders, past or present, that you'd go out for a meal with.
Think fast. Jane Goodall. I've met her, but I haven't had an opportunity to talk to her very much. I'd love to have conversations with her and her journey as a woman and as an educator and as an environmentalist. Helen Keller, again, like pioneer in education and such an incredible human being. If I'd had an opportunity to somehow communicate with her, it'd be cool. And then just Obama. I still love him. I mean, Jacinda's pretty cool, but Obama would probably be my dinner guest if I had to choose between the two.
Super. Gemma, thank you very much for coming on. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
You're very welcome.
Gemma.
It's lovely to meet you.
Cheers, Gemma. Search Infinite Leaders live on YouTube, IGTV, and now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please share our episodes far and wide with anybody who you think will find them interesting. There's so much information packed into them, and we're so grateful for the wonderful guests that we have on. Please remember to visit us at theinfinitelearners.com. You'll find articles, webinars, and our weekly journal notes that Alan alluded to earlier. So that's it from us. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Gemma.